Hello and welcome back once again to movie reviews. So another day, another set of movies, hopefully. So the first thing up today is the one I was going to try and see the other day when I wasn't feeling well, and that would be The Judge. This movie, actually, better than I thought it was going to be. I kind of had my ideas of what I thought it was going to be, and more or less it was, but it performed above what I thought it was going to be, I guess I would say. So we start out with basically what you see in the preview. Robert Downey Jr.'s character is at a trial. He gets a call that his mother's passed. So he gets a continuance on the trial. Then it shows his home life with him and his daughter a little bit, and then you find out that his wife is in the picture, but they're getting a divorce. Basically, he's kind of having his career be first, and of course, she gets lonely and goes out and finds someone else, and even though she regrets doing it, he won't accept it, well, what guy would, honestly, So I kind of understand where he's coming from, but realistically, had they sat down and talked about it, they might have been able to work it out, but then there would always be that trust issue. So he goes home and you get to meet his family. He's got two brothers. One of them is slightly challenged. The other one, we later find out, was like a pretty good baseball player and was getting scouted by major league teams and whatnot, and basically came down to he got injured and that ended his career. But that really doesn't come into play a whole lot, other than throughout the movie you kind of think that's what the dad holds the grudge against the middle son is about, because it involved him of how he got injured. But that wasn't the case. So then he's getting ready to leave and he gets a call from his brother and, about their dad being in trouble. Sorry about all the traffic noise. I got the windows down because it's hot as balls in the car right now. But he gets a call from his brother about their dad being in trouble, and he comes back, and his dad's like, I don't want you representing me, because they're both hard asses, basically. So his dad goes, I'm going to get an honest lawyer, like one of these people from here type of thing. And he gets this inexperienced lawyer. He studied law, he obviously passed the bar exam, but hasn't really done a lot in the way of lawyer work. So the whole time they're first in the hearing, Robert Downey Jr.'s character is like trying to counsel him, but then the judge says, are you co-counsel? If not, then be quiet. And the father's like, no, he's not. So he ends up getting booted out of the courtroom for not being quiet, basically contempt, but they escort him out. So then it basically ends up that this lawyer's too weak to do this, so it ends up going to trial, and that's when the dad finally breaks down and says, okay, I'm going to need your help. Then we get to meet Robert Downey Jr.'s character's ex-girlfriend, who ends up being a little bit of a spoiler here, but it pans out to be really funny. After the funeral, Robert Downey Jr.'s character and his brothers go out to the bar, and Robert Downey Jr. kind of picks up the waitress, and they go in the back room and make out. So then later on, we meet one of his ex-girlfriends from when he used to live there as a kid, and then it turns out later we find out that the girl who works at the bar that he made out with is the ex-girlfriend's daughter. And then as the story progresses, it's kind of hinting that maybe she's his daughter, so he's like really awkward about the whole thing. Because I guess when he left town, was right around the time that she got pregnant with the daughter. So then basically it goes through the whole trial process, and as the trial goes on, they're constantly butting heads with each other. They have a few nice father-son moments where they kind of give each other some slack and just do the father-son thing. But then it always comes back to the trial and them butting heads with each other because they're both so strict. And Robert Downey Jr. is like, there's so many technicalities that we could do, and the dad's like, no, I want to, I'm a judge, I want the trial to be fair, like I would want any trial that I resign over to be fair. So it always comes to them butting heads about it. So then, through the course of the trial, the truth comes out about why the dad was always so hard on Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Has a lot to do with how the trial pans out. The verdict comes down, and I'm not going to tell you what the verdict was or what all happened at this point, because it is a really good movie. I do recommend seeing it. But at the same time, it's one of those standard uptight hard ass who had problems finds humility through going back home type of things. Kind of like I almost said Doc Hollywood, but sort of the same thing. He's Doc Hollywood was a big Hollywood doctor, and then he went to a small town and ended up falling in love with it. There's a lot of other movies that were similar in this premise, where the guy has family issues, so he leaves home. He has to come back home for some reason, and reconciles with everyone and finds humility, and that he was actually kind of the asshole the whole time. So Robert Downey Jr.'s character gets the humility lesson. He goes back home, finishes out the trial that he had the continuance on. Never really shows whether or not he reconciled with his wife or anything like that. So that's kind of up in the air. In fact, it kind of leaves with him kind of just looking towards the future. He leaves the party that everyone's having, and he goes over to the courthouse where no one's at, and he goes in and he looks at his dad's desk, in the courtroom. Can't think of what the elevated stand is that the judge sits at. But he goes up to that, and he's looking down at his dad's chair. Kind of seems like he's either contemplating becoming a judge himself, giving up the law game and becoming a judge. He might be considering moving back to the small town, because he could, even if he doesn't reconcile with his wife, who he's getting a divorce from, he's always got this girl back home that still loves him, so it's all that's still kind of up in the air. They never really resolved the thing with the wife, or his daughter for that matter. They do resolve the possible other daughter, but I'm not going to give that away either, because it is kind of funny what ends up coming out of it. Which actually, in a way, ties back to his estranged wife. But again, it's that humility lesson. So, like I said, there's always room that he could have, sucked it up, went back home, and made things right with her. But I'm going to guess probably not, but they didn't really go into it. So yeah, he just kind of stands there contemplating his future, looking down at the judge's chair, and then it goes to black. So yeah, gave you the ending, but not how it got there. Best type of spoilers, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for The Judge. Like I said, it was more or less what I thought it was going to be, but executed really well, better than I thought it was going to be. It is a story we've seen before, so loses a little bit for that, but at the same time, everything in Hollywood has been done before. So yeah, it's just a different spin on a story. As far as a star rating on this one, I think for the first time in a long time, I'm actually going to give something a 4. I do like this movie a lot. It was 2.5 hours long, but it earned that running time, unlike what was it I saw the other day, The Equalizer, that just had an excessively long runtime for no reason. This actually earns the runtime with the story. Yeah, there were a few parts that could have been trimmed out of it and probably shortened it up to 2 hours, but at the same time, I can understand why everything that was there. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 for the first time in a while. So that's it for The Judge. I do got another movie I'm going to go try and see. Hopefully it gets out on time, because my phone started buzzing while I was in the middle of in the last 5 minutes of the movie, of course. So I checked my voicemail a minute ago, and my boss wants me to come into work a little bit later, so hopefully I can catch one more movie and it'll get out in time for me to get back across town and get into work. If not, Oh well. Shouldn't call me in on my days off, right? So yeah, that's it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of Movie Reviews.